Hey everyone, I'm Arpita. I help you understand fashion to build a sustainable wardrobe. This is part of a series where I will be talking to sustainable brands and industry experts to make you understand how to be responsible in this ever changing fashion world. Meet Charlotte, co founder of Mewar Collective. Charlotte grew up and studied in France. She is currently based in Trivandrum, South India, part of the Kanthari program, a leadership program for social change makers. Just before the pandemic, she made a trip to India that changed a lot of perspectives for her. Thanks to it, she met a lady who inspired her to start making and creating things. Her ethical, eco friendly clothing brand Bindoo represents efforts, dreams, engagements, and teamwork.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing really great. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm very happy to have you today. I share about sustainable and eco friendly fashion, minimal wardrobe, and conversations with people like you who are working hard to make a difference in fashion world through your work. Let us start our conversation with fashion first. So, my first question would be what, according to you, is eco friendly fashion? What made you work towards it with your brand Bindu?
Okay, that's a very good first question. For me, I don't like to talk about eco friendly fashion so much. I'd rather use the term sustainable fashion because it feels like it's less greenwash from the corporates. So for us, so I'll talk to you about Bindu just after that. But for us, with Bindu, we work on what we call the 3P model. So it's all about people, planet, and process. It's basically having this all-inclusive terms to be sure that we follow up procedures to try to be as sustainable as possible, basically. So with the people, we really believe in social justice. I guess everyone remembers a lot of tragic event that has been happening in the world of fashion in the last decades, and it's all about equality as well. On the planet, we have something very close on the animal welfare and in general about ecological integrity. I think we can all think about all the trends with vegan leather and feathers that it's being used for accessories for a long time. So we're really trying to be more respectful to the planet. And the last one of the P's would be the process. So it's basically realizing that there is heritage and there is knowledge from the past that we can take and pass through the next generation without degrading it too much with integrity. So if you ask me about the definition of sustainable fashion, it really to achieve a carbon neutral fashion industry. It's still an ideal. Let's be honest. There's still so much work to be doing, and it's been compromised so much with this greenwashing from corporates. But that's basically my definition. When you ask me what made me work towards this kind of industry, and so why not fast fashion, basically, it's because so my background, I come from the corporate world and then slowly transitioned into the nonprofit sectors. And basically, when I start working on nonprofit, I was working back in 2020 on the menstrual education and menstrual hygiene topic in Rajasthan in northern India. And basically, I realized that most of the women who were coming, they come from very vulnerable backgrounds, but those women who were coming were actually tailors. And without really knowing it, they had so much knowledge and heritage. So I didn't really chose the topic. It kind of come to me. And because I was really close to the idea of doing green menstrual products. So we were at that time providing washable, biodegradable sanitary napkin. I thought if we're able to make sustainable menstrual product, why not making sustainable fashion as well? Because as I said, those women were tailored. They had the knowledge about garment, about textile. And I thought, if we have to make it from scratch, I dream and I want to have a full process that is clean, and that is clean from how we make the collection, how we source it, how we dye it, how we work with the suppliers, how my team is working, how we arrange all the apparels, and how we deliver to the customer. So it kind of came like this. Basically, there was not so much. I think we've done the opposite of what business should do. We kind of made it and then realized, oh, actually, I think we're making sustainable fashion. So yeah, I think that's the background of the story.
That really sounds amazing. Then let's go to my next question. How do
Yes,
you
please.
think fast fashion is impacting the environment? What are your thoughts on slow fashion?
I have very, very strong opinions about fast fashion. For me, it's basically the answer of the quick, cheap, disposable way of life that we are having those days. Um, it's for me, it's interesting because all the fast food, slow food movement is a very big thing right now. So I feel like customers really want to know where their food is coming from. They want to know the local market. They want to know and be able to see that their food hasn't been spread with chemicals. But when it comes to fashion, suddenly nobody cares. Oh, people don't really question what kind of material they're putting on their back. I there's a number that's constantly in my head is in the 80s in the US on average people were buying up to 12 new pieces of clothes every year. Okay, 12. Today in 2022 it's 68 new pieces of clothes a year, and half of that is worn less than 3 times, and that's it, and then it's disposal. So basically fast fashion is faster and faster because we are more and more demanding for being entertained, for satisfying some sort of void or some sort of emptiness that the market is giving us. But the question that people are not answering to themselves is who is paying the price, basically, right? Because fast fashion is getting us very hungry for very fast, very disposable. I think one example that I always give for my grandmother um, was telling me that back in the days, in when she was in her 20s, there was basically maybe 2 collection a year. In the closest boutique of her neighborhood, like people were making clothes for the winter when it was cold, and some light, nice dresses in the summer. And then that was about it. And you would buy a piece of clothes and you'll keep it for 20 or 30 years. Matter of fact, my grandma just moved to an old person's house and we went through a closet. And mom was telling me that she's seen her mother with this jacket, for example, her whole life. How can we say that to the next generation when we're going to go through our H&M or Zara jacket? We won't, because after a few washes the buttons are going to go, the colors is going to fade, and to be honest, the fashion, the cuts that are chosen are not going to be fashionable because there's a dictatorship on how the cut, how the color, how the prints need to look like, and it goes so fast. There's no essential pieces of clothes anymore, right? So the market is giving us, and we are eating something that we're just never full with. But the thing is, that is showing a big disrespect to the food, to the clothes, to the people who are making the clothes. And the point that I wanted to make again is who's paying the price. Okay, there was an incident 10 years ago, right? In Bangladesh, the Dhaka garment, which collapses. And I will remember all my life because it happened on my birthday. It was 24th April 2013. So next year for my birthday would be the 10-year anniversary of this. So maybe for listeners who don't know what happened, this is the biggest drama that happened for the fashion industry. There was this huge building in Bangladesh that were, under employing a lot of people, and the building collapsed because the condition was just terrible. And I think it's 1,100 people who died that day, and more than 2,500 people got injured. And I think that was one of the times where people were realizing, oh, so these people are paying the price for us. Did anything change in 10 years? I am not so sure. People forget really fast when it goes into prices, but I hope anyone listening to this or anyone who's starting their journey in understanding what is sustainable fashion is to think, when you pay your t-shirt in H&M for €7, I'm not sure in rupees, maybe like 1,000 rupee max,
Yeah.
that should be the price of a t-shirt, because of, if there's a fair salary, if there's a fair processing in the material that you're using, in the dyeing that you're using, and the chain, the supply chain for all of that, that shouldn't be the price. So there's so much to do to fight against this fast fashion, and I think it's starting with people like you and me who actually try to make
Yeah.
a difference. I mean, we're very, I'm speaking for myself, we're still very grassroots, but I feel like the fact there's an educational part to make on the top of just making clothes. Okay, just making the clothes is not enough, and it takes courage, because you need to take a position in going against the giants, basically. But understanding, like, the same thing as eating your Big Mac is bad for the planet and for yourself, consuming an H&M or a Zara is as bad for yourself and for the planet.
I totally agree with you, Sasha. I generally talk about these kind of topics on my YouTube channel.
Right.
Somebody interested, they can just go ahead and watch. Let's move on to the next question. France in general is known for like known as a fashion hub. Paris, if I have to be specific, growing
Yes.
up, you must have seen and gone through fashion influences.
Yeah.
You have also lived in Hong Kong and currently living in India. Hong Kong is another place to have a major fashion influence. Can
Yeah.
you share the differences you have seen in Indian fashion from France and Hong Kong?
Yeah, I really like this question, actually. So first of all, I'm not from Paris. So myself, I'm from the south of France, which is really different. Like, it's
Yeah,
really funny. I think the the Emily's in Paris Netflix series didn't help for foreigners to understand that France is not just Paris, but
yeah,
basically I'm from a very vulnerable, much more simple background that Emily when she comes to Paris. But it's true. France has been, I would say, in the 19th and the 20th century, it has been the capital of fashion for the world. This is undeniable. Matter of fact, the Fashion Week just finished, right? The Fashion Week was ended up like last week or 10 days ago. So there is a lot of interest, and there has been amazing emancipation for women with Coco and with other amazing designers who actually changed the future of women through fashion. It influenced my life in a sense that it's part of French woman DNA. Uh, People like to dress up. People respect the clothes, and there is some identity with who you are when you wear clothes. When it comes to Hong Kong, there is, it's such an international, such a central Asian city, that it feels like it has influences from everywhere. Textile, while it's really interesting as well, the thing is, being so close to Shenzhen and Canton in China, there is a lot of very, very toxic textile, and not so much regulation into this topic. When it comes to India, I feel like, so what my point was saying, like, France has been amazing in fashion for maybe 200 or 300 years, but for many centuries before that, I think history kind of forgot that Asia was both center of the world for textile production and the source of its fashion trends as well. And India in particular, I think it was responsible for one of the largest textile production, and much, and for the fashion as well. So India has such a history in fashion as well, and for its color, it was known for the durability. So, and for the prints. as well, right? So in what it influenced me, I feel like I've had in my recent trips in here. So I've been on and off in India since 2018. And what strikes me, like I would say the biggest difference is maybe, yeah, the heritage and the culture that India is providing to fashion, more than France is always trying to get ahead because of so much pressure of being the capital of fashion, right? So I feel like the relationship maybe with the garment is slightly different between the two.
What made you choose India to work on your brand Bindu? Of
Yeah.
all places in India, why did you choose Udaipur and the handlooms of Rajasthan for your clothing brand?
Yeah, so as I was explaining just before, so I came officially came in India in 2019 because I needed a break from my busy, stressful corporate life in Hong Kong, and this is where I met the co-founder that I'm still working with, Lat Lohar. She is a menstrual activist, and when I met her, I just realized how important was her work. And I had no idea how difficult was the life of rural women when it comes to their menstruation. So actually, I came to Udaipur to meet Lad because she's from there. She's from a nomadic clan traveling through Rajasthan, and her family has been in Udaipur for a few generations. And so we started working on Mewar Collective, which is the name of the nonprofit. And as I said before, then we realized that so many of those women that we were employing were actually tailors. And so we started to make Bindoo. So I don't feel like I really chose Udaipur again. It kind of chose me. But it's more like doing all the markets, going around to Jaipur, going around in Udaipur and the region, just realizing the heritage, the knowledge, everything that the region was providing. I was just amazed. I was just like a kid in a candy shop, just touching the fabric, talking to the people, and realizing how many centuries those people have been doing double printing and block printing. And I thought, well, if we want to be consistent with the sustainability idea that we're having, maybe we'll learn so much, not only with our tailors, but with the suppliers, with the other people who are making fashion brands right now. And so it started. I got lucky enough to surround myself with a bunch of students from different design school around. And I think the beautiful part of the project was everyone started with a passion. We had no budget whatsoever, and people were like, "Yeah, I can design a collection for you, and I will test it out." And then it started. So we've just launched our second collection that is sold mainly in France at the moment. Um, the reason why is that is because, again, the education about pricing for sustainability fashion needs to be done. And I think in France, for the market that I'm having, people start to understand that. I found it difficult in India to find this kind of network, but it will
Ah,
come, hopefully.
it will for sure. To continue with the conversation and the answer, how do you source eco-friendly fabrics to work with?
So we've done so much research around the region, and actually at the end we found a place called Akola, which is around 120 kilometers from Udaipur, which is a small little town in Rajasthan. But we've spent a lot of time talking to the artisans over there, and we realized that most of them were actually providing certified organic cotton, which we worked for the two collections that we've launched. And it's just taking time, to be honest. I think what is hard, and it's discussion that I'm having with a lot of people who work with organic, that is organic food or that is organic textile in India, is the West is obsessed with having organic certificates, right? But what is interesting is because it's India, and I feel like For the smaller groups, it's harder to get a certificate because it takes time, it takes some money. But we are going to the source. We are, checking that the women who are supplying are paid with a reasonable salary, that the cotton growing is treated without any nasty chemicals on that. And at the same time, the big corporation, they buy certificates that are out of nowhere without doing any sourcing job. And so we're losing the credibility of something that we are actually at the source of it. So that is a struggle, honestly. The certificate for certification is of organic is a struggle, but we're so small at the moment that we actually are going to these places. We see how the materials and the process is being done. So that's basically our own authenticity certificate, I would say.
That's actually great because sourcing the organic cotton has become a challenge right now.
Really hard, and it's very expensive. Again, like buying the organic cotton has a cost. Okay, I had
Yes.
the same problem when I was making the organic pads, and now that I'm making clothes, it's the same thing for sanitary napkins. The cotton is going to touch a woman's body directly, right? So we're thinking if we use cotton that is not going to do any rashes, that's going to be actually fair to a woman's body, it will be fair for the planet and for the woman, because a plastic pad, the one that you buy in your supermarket or in the pharmacy, takes 500 to 600 years to decompose, right? Using organic cotton and a pad that's going to be disposable and biodegradable would take less than a year to go into the soil. So we come with the best intention, yet the price has a value through it. But then when we propose the price to people, because there's education hasn't been done yet, we face a wall because they're thinking, why would I pay so much money when I can go to the supermarket and buy this pad 10 times, less the price? And it's the same thing for the clothes. The way I say it is think the other way around. Again, if you're not paying the real cost, who's paying it? I think that's the question you should ask yourself for everything. As a consumer, you have a responsibility. And I think it's too easy to say, well, there's those giant corporates that are doing that greenwashing, they are doing whatever they're doing on the society. We have nothing to do. But if we stop buying them, they won't be producing, they won't be selling. So it's a choice. We all have choices as consumers to make a difference. And that comes with starting with organic, starting locally, starting being able to trace how your product has been done and asking yourself question. It's so easy to be blindfolded and just being like, refusing to see the truth. And I think it's very easy for people. I'll give you an example. Sorry, I always tackle H&M and Zara because they're the biggest in Europe. But they very, like, in the last 10 years, they've been launching what they call eco-friendly, and they have those boxes for recolting the clothes, and it's the sustainability, the eco-friendly charts. It's not a legal. It's not legally follow up. There's no legal way to do eco-friendly fashion in their chart. So if you starting reading the contracts and the charts on eco-sustainability, you'll just realize how of a joke it is. And when you see those boxes, um, re, recycling the clothes is still going to be garbage. So there's something like, if people would actually know, because it feels like you're putting your clothes in this box and then you're closing your eyes of where it's going after. You're still buying those clothes, you're still making the process for that, and it's still going to the landfill at the end of the day. It's just going to sustain maybe another life at one person's place for what, 3 times worn, and then it's going to go in the landfill. So again, it's a responsibility for all the consumers to actually be able to say the same way when you're buying your organic apple and be like, yeah, I actually know the farmer down the road. I know he's not spreading chemicals on it and he's going to his little market and selling it to me. We should be able to do the same thing with our clothes. But people are not, they're not educated how we dye a clothes. They're not educated what kind of material are in our clothes. They're not educated on what's the condition, again, in Bangladesh, of these women, because they're mainly women working on this thing. So if you're not paying the price, they are.
I totally agree with you. Consumers should start thinking, do I really need to buy this? That's where it all starts. when we are as consumers, when we are demanding, production is happening. When we are not demanding for things, production will reduce a little bit, at least fair to the environment and the people.
Exactly. Yeah. I have friends. Let's say we're gonna meet, and if I'm late, which I am sometimes, they will just say, "Oh, well, I was waiting for you for like 5 or 10 minutes, and I went to H&M and I bought this," and it just I'm getting to a point where I get so emotional because it's almost as I could see the blood coming out from a piece of clothes and just saying you don't need those things. And it's exactly how the market wants you to react. And if you're stressed, people go shopping. If they're bored, people go shopping. It's like any kind of reason to go shopping. If you're bored, just read a book, go for
Yeah,
a walk, have a coffee with a friend. You don't need so many clothes. We have so many clothes
yes,
already.
it's become like a hobby, I would say.
Exactly. Exactly. What do you do for hobbies? I shop. Shopping,
Yes,
not a hobby. Shopping
yes,
should be like eating. We eat because we need food in our tummy. We need some clothes to cover our skin because this is the social norm. But that's it. So what we're trying to do with Bindu, and it's counterintuitive for business, I would say, because we don't want people to buy too many of our clothes. What we want is people to be okay. Well, I get how they make the clothes. I need a shirt because my previous shirt has a hole or something like this, but I know by buying my shirt, I'm going to be able to keep it for the next 10 years. And we're trying to make cuts that are fitting for everyone. They are adjustable. We're trying to make design that you won't get tired too fast about, and we really, trying to reduce the amount of clothes and having, a resistant dress, a fabric that's not going to go weird or the color that's going to fade away after 2 or 3 times of wearing it. So I'm probably the worst person to do business and just saying, you don't need to buy our clothes. You need to buy one piece or two and then
yes,
and embrace it. And what we want is people to actually start having a relationship with the clothes, having a respect. I know it might sound a bit mystical for some of the people, but if you realize that your clothes are actually have a soul, they have the soul of the people who made it. They're actually coming from cotton that's a living organic, right? So it's more like having some sort of a contract with your clothes, and next time there's a hole on it, you fix the hole. Next time there's a stain, you remove the stain. And not just using your clothes just like very fast garbage that could be replaced, because we with fast fashion we disrespect the clothes. With sustainable fashion, with Bindu, we're trying to find this respect again, and being proud of wearing a clothes and saying, you know what, I've been wearing this for the last 10 years. This is awesome, right? You should be proud of having something that is, it's involving with you, it's going through life with you. I'm sure, like, I have this t-shirt that I've had since I was in high school, right? And I'm just thinking, wow, it's been 20 years that I'm wearing the same T-shirt, and it's going through life with you. There's a relationship with clothes. I think it's something that I'm very, very dear of.
as you said, you tell people not to buy. Being a fashion designer myself, I keep doing that, and I'm sure my friends or my college mates, whoever watch my videos, they might be thinking, "What's wrong with this girl?" Yeah, she's in fashion industry and she's saying, "Don't buy, don't buy at all.
Yeah,
If you're buying, buy the correct one and keep it for like 10 to 20 years." In India,
exactly.
generally, women wear these silk saris. So these silk saris are like made with all pure silk and all those things. So they keep them for their next generation, like
Yeah,
wedding saris and all. So why can't we do the same thing for our regular clothes? That's what I am trying to tell everyone. Like every
absolutely.
cloth is important.
Yeah,
Just because it's like bought at H&M or Zara or somewhere, it doesn't mean you bought it for very less money, so you can just throw it away. It should not
yeah,
be that way. I keep telling people about that.
absolutely.
Let's get into the colors. You were talking about colors of India,
Yes.
right? A little
Yeah.
earlier. So India is known for its bright colors on fabrics. When we use natural colors, they are earthy tones, but not so bright. When we
Hmm.
add chemicals, and the colors become brighter, but those are harmful for the environment. What is your take on the chemical dyes used on the fabrics?
I love this question so much. I think it's such an important question. I am not a designer from start, so just so everyone knows, I've been working with designers and I've been studying the question a lot. But from what I understand, historically, India was known for the bright color of their clothes. But the definition of brights might be different from the bright standard that we have today. Okay, so natural color are earthy on today's standard because there has been a significant development in the chemical dyes, which has a mineral origin and hence are brighter. Okay, but it's not entirely true that those natural colors are earthy. Basically, the brightness, from what I understand, depends on what type of fabric you're using as a base, right? So, for example, if you print or if you use the dyeing on silk color, they're going to appear exuberant, right? So, it's been, honestly speaking, I think the dyeing process has been one of the biggest struggle we've have faced through Bindoo, because the deciding on, do we use natural dyeing or do we use chemical dyeing, it's just like anything else, right? There's no black or white. So all the dyeing process lie on a spectrum, with natural dyes on the side and then certain cancerogenic azo dyes on the other side. I think what we've been discussing is natural dyes are definitely what we are aspiring to go, but it demands a lot of land and it still demands so much water to produce such a tiny amount of dye, which is going to stay if you use the natural mineral rich water of the river that might actually have heavy metals and lead to chromium and causing health hazard at the end. On the other hand, you have chemical dyes, okay, who are the devil, the evil chemicals. But there are ways, like we've been studying, that there are ways to dispose it if you actually handle this correctly. So personally, the way that we see it is, since natural dye provide employment to so many people, we can see that. I'm talking for Rajasthan and Akola, for example, the place that we're working. Um, those who value and can afford having such a laborious process should actually go with natural dye. But as I said, the limitation is the amount of land and water that is used through that. So I'll be totally transparent. So for us, at the moment, the last two collection, we've actually been using synthetic indigo dye. It's called the German indigo, because because with the money that we had to choose, either we go with organic cotton or we go with natural dyeing, and we went through organic cotton. We didn't have the timing, we didn't have the resources, and we didn't find the people who can work on natural dyeing using less land and less water. So if anyone has any contact, shout out to me. But I think it's been one of the biggest struggle for us in this thing. In both cases, there's good and bad. But I think, again, it comes with education. It comes with people understanding the process. For example, when you wash our clothes, there's going to be some colors coming out of it. So if consumers are not used to it, let's say that if they're washing machine the clothes, then everything's going to go away. So it's a long way to go for our grassroots project, but we're really willing to make the effort financially, and if and when we find the right farmers that can help us with that.
In the past, I've created a documentary on Bagru block prints, so I can give you the contact for
Right.
natural dye person. Yeah, indigo blues and all. I worked with them, and I've made like a detailed video where they show how the natural dyeing process goes. So
Yes.
that way, maybe people will understand the whole process, and they'll take responsible steps towards it. That's
Yes.
what I tried showing in that.
If I can add on this, I think a couple of years there was this thing coming up in Delhi, I think, where the dog starting to turn blue because they were putting some of the indigo rest of the dye into the rivers, and so again, like affecting directly the community. And so I think there's still so much work on the chemical, on the natural one, and how to handle the colors, how to dispose them, and how to provide alternative solutions that are not taking so much land and water.
As you have mentioned, you have used indigo colors. I've seen, like, in your collection, you have indigo block print fabrics. When you
Yeah,
said synthetic colors, those will definitely bleed a little less.
yeah.
Uh, so now, at present, are you thinking to go forward with the synthetics, or like, how do you want to do with your brand?
Yeah, so as I say, so we've just launched the second one. We usually have two collections a year. We have the summer collection, and then we have a little pop up for Christmas.
Uh,
Because again, the market being France and Hong Kong, we're trying to make special pouches with anything left over. We do bunding and earrings, and so for 2023, as I said, we will take the stand of going through natural dyeing, but we're still in the looking for the right partner. So that's the aspiration. We'll try to make it happen.
Okay, that sounds great. When I met you, I understood from our conversation that women's empowerment is important to you, and your work screams about it. Like, whatever you have shared until now says that you are like into women empowerment. Can you share the ways you are helping the women, like, in detail a little?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure if the whole project screams it. I kind of like the idea though, but it's been a journey for me. So basically, from I come from the corporate world, where the higher you go in the hierarchy, the less women you're gonna see. Okay, so I before my transformation into the social world, I was a regional manager for a big communication agency for France, and I was just surrounded by men. And being surrounded by men didn't give me, I felt, the space for actually being myself, for being able to speak out, for sharing exactly what I had in mind because of this unspoken oppression, hierarchy, and there's some sort of like unspoken rules of how a woman should behave in a men's club, and especially in a white older men's club. And when I did my transformation going to social work, I realized how precious it is to work with women, and how much me as a woman, me suffering from this oppression, I could actually, help and guide other women to do so. So when I met Lads, my social activist friend who became my co-founder, I thought, you're doing an incredible job in spreading awareness and education on menstrual hygiene. Lad's never been to school. She was forced married when she was still a teenager, and actually escaped from a very toxic family, which is very unusual from where she's from. And then she started talking about menstruation, which is very unusual from where she's from. So she's kind of like breaking one taboo at the time. And when I met her, I realized that she didn't have any website, or she didn't have any, social media. And so I thought I could help her for a week or two. And then after staying with her for 3 months, that we decided we actually going to launch a project. And sitting in her village, so that's around 20 kilometers out of Udaipur, there were so many women that were just at home, taking care of the family, but who had never had an opportunity to work. And then we thought, like they could make clothes, but they will make clothes for their family, or they could make pads, but they wouldn't have the right resources. And we thought, well, do you want to come and sit down and talk and tell us what you're missing in your life and how we can help? So we're starting having all these women getting trainings, getting freelancer work, and having a woman's circle really helped in gaining trust. I could really feel the difference from the beginning to once they get the trainings to once they start having salary, because without financial freedom, women will never be free. That's as simple as that. The moment you give them a salary, and a monthly salary and a fixed salary, they can start saving, they can start having projection of their own future. So at Mewar Collective, which is the NGO, and at Bindoo, we actually are only women working. We have men in the boards, but they're the nicest men you can ever think of, to a fact that sometimes I forget they're men, because they come to the circles and they're so listening and patient and emotional, and we really are just a small family. And for me, it's just the essence of the work. And so I'm currently in a leadership program in South India, and I'm working on my own project, because Bindu and Mivar, my ultimate goal would be that the local team can run it without me. So I'm working on another project, and I realize it's again focusing on women's rights. So I think it's part of me. It's because I know there's so much injustice in the world towards women. There's a UN paper that says one woman out of three will face sexual violence or sexual harassment in her lifetime. And if I can make a difference from my little my little scale, I'll make everything possible to make that. And that is from providing menstrual hygiene, that is from providing clothes that are made from women, with respect and dignity. And that is for my new project, which is on sexual education, but that's another topic for another day.
As you've already mentioned, Mewar Collection and then Lado, your co-founder. So, can you share a little bit about Mewar Foundation, Mewar Collective?
Absolutely. So Mewar Collective was born after I spent some time with Lad. She was actually already doing the work. I don't really consider myself as I call myself the co-founder or the co-help for this project. So for the last 2 years, we've been producing and distributing those pads. So we go to very remote places all around Rajasthan, and we provide the pads. Basically, the pads are just a foot in the door for starting a discussion. So it's the same thing with sustainable fashion. If we go and distribute the pads, thank you, goodbye, enjoy the pads, the transformation is not going to happen. So we need to actually go explain why we need to have pads, because maybe for listeners who don't have the context, in those regions there's no accessibility to pads whatsoever. There's no education and there's no accessibility. So women, when they start menstruating, they use whatever is around for absorbing their cycle. So it could be sand, plastic, leaves. So you can only imagine the kind of disease that it can develop, and then how uncomfortable it is for women to go through their life when they menstruate. So by providing the pads, they can keep the pads for a long time. As I said, it's biodegradable. You just need some water and some soap, and then dry it under the sun to keep your day running. And another thing is, because there's no education to it, um, starting menstruating means that you become a woman. And we're talking about girls that can be between 9 to 14 year old who potentially going to go and get married and have children. So 50% of the girls when they start having their periods actually drop out school. So our pads, it's kind of a tool against the school dropout, and just saying, you know what, there's nothing to worry about. You use your pads, educate the community, sorry, and life moves on. So we've been doing this for the last 2 years. We've provided around 1,000 plus pads. But what we want to do is, as I said, not just going once, is really to have a follow-up, understanding if they understand how to use the pads, understand why they use the pad. And we also want men to come at the discussion, because at the end of the day, they are the one making most of the decisions in the houses. So without the consent of a man, of an uncle, of a brother, it might be difficult for a woman to come and wash the pad, dry the pad outside. So it all comes from a whole village education and acceptance through that. So yeah, that's how Mivar was born.
Yeah, actually, you've already mentioned a bit about your future projects and all, but
Yes.
can you explain a little more about what kind of work you are planning to do in sustainability and women empowerment space?
Yeah. So as I said, we've launched a season collection too for Bindu. We only take orders online, so you can check on our website. There's the collection, and there's like an order form, and we deliver all around India and in Europe. We will be launching the Christmas collection in around November with some special pouches and accessories. And for next year, we'll be working on spring summer 2023. So that's on Bindoo. For Mewar, we have a couple of orders for our pad. We work mainly on B2B at the moment. And for my personal project, we'll start a tour starting from January 2023. So at the end of my program here in Kanthari in South India, where I'm going to go to different places around India for 4 months, educating on what are considered taboo topics, sexuality education included, menstrual education included, and I'll be providing educational tools and a special game to engage the youth to feel and talk about a subject that people don't really want to talk about. So I'm very excited about this as well.
You have been talking about educating people is important to make them understand about all these things. How do you plan to educate everybody?
Yeah. So as you say, I think the education is almost as important as sending the clothes and taking a stand. The way that we see it is to enter the Indian market, as I was saying previously, would be to actually go into special places. So the way I see it is actually organizing workshops.
Yes.
And by having pop-ups stores, but at the same time hosting the workshop and really going through the whole process, as I was saying earlier, and really explaining to everybody. People are willing to learn. We just need to explain them in easy way. It doesn't need to be complicated. I think you need to put numbers, you need to explain, and you need for people to understand the consequences of their action again. So I would say, yeah, going through workshops, doing interviews like we're doing now, just spreading the word as much as possible for people to start feeling the curiosity. And as I was explaining before, once you understand that you have the power and that you're not the victim of something, having more people to take the stand and having more people on our side to start a mini revolution against fast fashion.
Yeah, that really makes sense. Actually, I'm also working towards creating these workshops
Nice.
where I explain about maybe to start with about wardrobes, how they don't need so much clothes, how they
Yes.
can manage their wardrobe. Everybody has a love for these clothing, the new
Yeah.
clothing they are like excited to buy. So anyway, they will buy clothes. So
Yep.
initially, we can't just tell them ki don't buy, but
Yep.
we can just tell them how to manage their wardrobe with less money, with less effort. So
Absolutely.
I'm thinking to work on those kind of workshops first, and then maybe get into this sustainable part, where
Yep.
maybe we both can collaborate, maybe
I was
for these
about to say,
workshops.
if you need any help for that, I guess like I'll give you an example. In Hong Kong, the way that I was fundraising for Mivar at the beginning is we were collecting clothes from the neighborhood. So I was sending messages to some of my friends and saying, "Hey, it's springtime. How about you go through your wardrobe and you give me 10 of the pieces of clothes that are still looking nice, but that you don't wear anymore." And then we're starting having some sort of a network. When we gathered for the first event, I think we collected more than 5,000 pieces of clothes. We went
Okay.
through all the clothes together, and at the end, we have an event with 2,000 pieces of clothes, and we start selling it. So for a piece of clothes that was maybe €100, we were putting it for 20, thinking, okay, it's a second life to the clothes, but it's still functional and it's still looking really nice. And this is how we started making it. And so it became like a habit. Like I had in front of my house, I lived on at that time, I lived on the ground floor. I would go home and I have like bags, like those big IKEA bags, like in front of my house, where it started to be my friends, and then the whole community knew I was like the clothes lady. So I had randoms, people just coming and then giving me bags, and then I had so much clothes. So it was an income revenue for us, and at the same time, it became like a social place where people were buying their clothes, come with their friends, spend a nice time with us, and we would do education on talking about this. We started in a place like Hong Kong where secondhand doesn't exist. Okay,
Yes.
in the mindset of Chinese girls, of Hong Kong girls, um, and in China as well, but in Hong Kong specifically, they have the money to buy new clothes. So in their mind, it makes no sense to buy something that is worn before. Again, if when we start explaining why we're doing all this, it became some sort of like a trend. Like it switched from, this is kind of, gross because it's been worn by someone else, even though we were washing the clothes, we were taking care of the clothes. But it became like we could see the switch in the society through that. So for India, as I know that the secondhand is still not something that is so big, again, it will go through education, through making events where we can talk about all this, where it's fun, and where it gives dignity to this kind of clothes as well. So that might be an alternative to the sustainability fashion as well, to be like, instead of going to those big corporations, even in your neighborhood, organize a swap. Or at the biggest scale of a city, people should be organizing swaps for fun or for profit making. You depends, right? But there's so much to do from that, and thinking again to the bigger picture. Like if we all do that, then we'll just swap our clothes, and we won't need to actually make new clothes at the end of the day. So there's so much potential to it. Where it's actually, finding a unique piece for yourself, and not going to those big corporations where it's so boring. All the clothes look the same. They have what you walk in the street, and all these ladies look the same now, with having like the same kind of like summer trends. I don't know. It's just, for me, it's an alternative to, if you actually like fashion, if you actually care for the clothes, that be a little bit creative in the way you shop it, in the way you actually wear it, and the way you take a stand from it.
Yeah, I agree. In India, there is a thing like we won't wear somebody else's clothes. That's there, and
Yeah.
but there are people who are working towards selling second-hand clothes, make them
In this
clean
case,
and
I
neat,
guess.
and sell
Yeah.
them. And these swap things, I also talk about these, but these things are like a little difficult in my friend circle. Also, if I ask them, can we do this? They're not so comfortable with it. But when it is my cousin, my sister, or somebody, they are okay with it, because we've been living that way, like exchanging our clothes with sisters and brothers. I used to wear my brother's clothes, so like
Yeah,
that. But these things are like, if it comes to my neighbor, so that person may not choose my clothes to wear. So
I
that's
see.
the issue here. That's the kind of mindset people around us have. So that
It
should change.
it will take time, but honestly, in 2 years in Hong Kong, because it was very community. Like I used to live on a small island called Lama Island, which is 20 minutes away from Hong Kong. So there was around 8,000 people on this island, but there was such a transformation, honestly, in it, from something that they find it a bit weird to it actually became a trend. Okay, because we were making special events, like we would maybe swap like fast fashion. So there was some H&M, some Zara, and then we'll put it for like very very cheap, and we'll have special edition with like haute couture, very very big brands, and then from a piece of clothes that's supposed to cost 150 or 200, that you'll have it for a very very affordable price. And having the guarantee that if you don't wear it again, just bring it back and then sweep it again. So then this have so many different lives into the same piece of clothes.
Yeah, that point I liked. If you don't like it, or if you don't want to wear it, bring it back.
Exactly. Don't put it in the box in those big shops, because they say they're gonna recycle it, but most of the time it just become go
Okay,
back in
yeah,
the landfill.
okay, yeah, I agree. Okay, Sasha, that's the end of our conversation today.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. It was so cool.
Hope to meet you soon for another collaboration, Sasha.
Absolutely. Take care. Thank you so much.
That was a beautiful conversation with Shasha. It left me super inspired and motivated to work hard and make a change. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Make sure to give a thumbs up and share it as much as possible. All the episodes are coming soon on my Spotify, so make sure to follow me there. I will be bringing more people for information filled conversations. I would like to know from you guys in the comment section and social media about what kind of more topics you want to know. I will see you all in the next one. Bye.